Hello and welcome to the Lead Generation Strategies podcast. I'm your host, Joey Myers from Lead Generation SEO Services.com. And I have the honor today to bring on Mr. Gregory Barnes. And Gregory, you want me to call you Greg or Gregory? It's up to you.
Yeah, call me Greg. If I hear Gregory, I feel like I'm getting in trouble.
That's like me. That's like me and Joseph. My mom's the only one that calls me Joseph. Just sounds too well. Hey, welcome to the show, Greg.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
Well, hey, let's start off with an easy one. Where are you based?
Okay, we're based right in the middle of Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you ever visit Charlotte, we're right uptown on the square. Our office is right on what they call the square, Trade and Tryon.
Very cool. And how long have you been there?
We've been there 7 years.
Okay. Have you been there 7 years?
I've been with Transworld and had this office here for 7 years. I've been in Charlotte since 1995.
Okay. So you've been there for a while. So are you from the North Carolina area, just kind of moved around? You just born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, small town, about 30 minutes from Boone. Went to college in Greensboro, North Carolina, and then moved to Charlotte. So yeah, Charlotte and North Carolina has been home my whole life.
I love it. Well, hey, what do you guys do? And we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty here, Greg. What do you guys do on a high level for your company?
On a quick high level, here at Transworld Business Advisors, we deal with the buying and selling of existing businesses. So think of small business owners when they look to retire. We assist them with that sale of their business. We also work with over 500 franchises. So we deal with the selling of franchises as well. We have a franchise resale department. So that business owner that's looking to retire that owns a franchise, we also assist him. And we have a franchise development team. So if you have a small business and you want to turn it into a franchise, we assist with the paperwork, documentation, marketing, and sales of that new franchise. So we do a couple of different arms here, but it pretty much lies around the buying and selling of a business.
Very cool. So you said you've been with the company for 7 years. Have you always done this, Greg, or what did you do before if you hadn't always done this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I started my first business in May of 1999. So I've been a serial business owner since then. Transworld is actually the 7th business I've owned, and it is a franchise. I bought it in 2015 and we opened up in November of 2015. But hopefully this is my last stop. I'm trying to ride this train all the way to the end.
Well, what I know in the last couple of years, I've really done a lot of research into mergers, acquisitions, that kind of thing. What was so you said this is the 7th business that you've owned. So what kind of businesses have you dabbled in before this? And then what led you into the mergers, acquisitions business?
Okay, yes, sir. I always kind of been in the service industry. So I'm still in the service industry. I pride myself on doing what you say you're going to do. So that's the main piece, the service industry. My stepdad owned a transportation company growing up. So I was already doing logistics and things for him. And once I graduated from college, I worked for one of the big trucking companies here doing logistics. For just a little while, I realized that I couldn't work for someone else. So I actually started a transportation company. It's very simple. Everything I kind of already knew it. And that kind of dwarfed over into other service industry businesses. I've owned an auto repair business, tow truck company, auto parts sales business. I even owned a landscaping company one time. So anything around that service industry, I've always really been drawn to it. And in 2020, in the pandemic, proved to the world that we cannot operate without the service industry. Those were the only guys working. Everybody else was at home. Yes.
Very cool. So and a lot of those businesses are very much in need. And like you said, during 2020, we found out how much in need those businesses are. And so the transition into that mergers, acquisitions business. So was that just more of a thing you saw working in these other service industry businesses, and you were like, hey, that might be actually a good skill set to either have or to be able to service other service-based businesses? Is that about your journey into it?
Yes, sir. Well, actually what happened, my mentor decided to sell his business when he was getting retired. And that's when I learned about business brokerage and that you could sell your business. I never even knew that there was a such thing as business brokerage. And a lot of business owners don't know that they can actually sell the business, not just sell the assets, but sell the goodwill of the company as well. So that's what happened. I actually sold a couple of my companies, and I bought a couple of those businesses that I've owned. I didn't start them all from scratch. So I had been through the process a few times. And then when I sold my last company, the transportation company, it was the largest company I had. So when I had a broker that assisted with that sale, he said, Greg, you should kind of get in this industry because you already understand business. You keep good books and records and know how to package your business for sale. So it was kind of that next step. And he kind of just planted that seed in my head. And I said, well, I don't want to start Barnes Business Brokerage. I started looking around and I looked at some of the franchises, and I landed with Transworld because Transworld's been around since 1979. And we have a lot of data and information. And I went down and met with our CEO, Andy Cagnetta, and it was just a great meeting. And a lot of our business acronym aligned, that the client's always the main focus.
It's so fascinating when you start looking into the mergers acquisitions business. Go into a little bit for those business owners that are out there, maybe don't know much about it, but what are the benefits of, what's the differences, I guess, pros and cons between starting your own business versus acquiring a business that's already going?
Yes, that's a big question. But if you can actually get into a company that's already up and running, it's going to give you that aspect of already having that historical data. You have that client base. And in a world like today, you inherit that website, that following, social media. Joey, you SEO guys, you inherit that SEO as well. So you're not starting from scratch and putting out a brand and trying to find your way and weed through there. But also the big bonus is that you can actually usually start one cheaper than you could, buy one cheaper than you could start one. Because if you go through, say you do an SBA loan and you're 10, 15% down, if it's $1 million plus business, you're talking a couple of $100,000 and you're already up in cash flow on day one compared to dumping $1 million and getting the business up and going and hoping they come, right? And praying they come. So the main advantage I look at when I look at personal business is not only the financial data, but that goodwill. How's the name of the company? How is it ran? Is it efficient? How's the employees? Key employees, really the key employees, but it really gives you an insight of inheriting people that really already love the company. And you have a different vibe than if you're reading through there. Employees are tough. You can go through tons of them, but imagine buying a company and you've already got your key 10 or 15 players in place and just running with it from there.
And I know there's a lot of stigma. Some people out there, again, that don't really know business people about this, that you can do this, and it is actually more cost effective to acquire a company than it is to start one. They might think, well, I got to come in with a couple $100,000, or like you mentioned, an SBA loan. Are there ways that you can broker a deal or acquire a company in a way that maybe you could go zero down for a certain amount of time and then use the business, their own assets to pay that down payment? Are there ways like that?
It happens. It does happen, right? But it's a unicorn. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that we have out right now, that there's a lot of misinformation that you can actually go in and get a company zero down or 10% down. But we have to flip that. If you're that business owner and you ran that business for 10, 20 years, you built up all this goodwill, it's kind of tough to take 10% of $1 million. Here's 100,000 and I owe you 900,000. That's a big step for a business owner. Now, I know it's out there and people say that, but I would say that it's very minimum that you see that. Usually it's about 50% of that acquisition price. If you can't get a loan, as far as a seller note, to get a seller to give more than 50% seller note, it's really tough because he's taking all the risk. It just switched from the buyer kind of risk to the seller risk. But if we can find a way to bridge that gap, now there are some things we can do as far as earnouts. If the company has to hit a certain amount of revenue, and things like that. But I don't, 10% down is tough. Usually when I hear it, and the seller just kind of jumps out the chair. I can't do that. So we just got to look at it twofold.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever done any deals where the owner stays on, like you said, it's kind of a payout, buyout, but where they stay on for a length of time, for a year or 2 years, and you pay them a salary basically to stay on, to make sure that, hey, we're on the right path. We got the processes in place. Do you ever do deals like that?
Yes, sir. We do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The owners stay on. Usually, I think it's about 37% of the time the owners stay on for some kind of period. And a year is usually around the max, a year, maybe 2 years, unless he keeps some equity in the company. If he kind of goes to that salary employee, you've been a business owner for all these years, it's kind of tough to work on a salary employee with a ceiling. So usually there'll be a percentage of equity that seller keep, and then he's more likely to work past that 1 year or 2 years time period.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Now you mentioned, Greg, about when you were kind of shopping some of these franchise Transworld, some of the different business acquisitions companies, and you said that it was a better alignment of your values and things like that. So what makes Transworld different in your eyes than other brokerages?
Yes, sir. So one thing with Transworld and Andy Cagnetta and our great team down there is that we're more family oriented, and we operate strictly for that client and working for that client and getting the best results for that client. Where some brokerage or some firms might work more for the commission to their pocket, right? So the money will follow if you do the right things. And what I like about what Transworld is, it's so aggressive. I'm a very aggressive person as far as with business. My demeanor is I'm going to go all day wide open, right? So I want to know what's the new trends, what's the new things that we're doing. So we want to bring in these platforms as well for our company. Like we have our own social media platform, we have our own CRM system. We used to use Salesforce. We built a customized one, so we don't have all these other things that we don't use, right? So Salesforce got thousands of things you can do it, but you only use like 10 of them. So we kind of zone that in. We have our own electronic document signature that we can send out through the CRM, but they just continuously keep boots on the ground. Another big plus is our CEO, Andy Cagnetta. He kept all of Florida. So he franchised outside of Florida. So he's actually still in the business brokerage industry with boots on the ground all over Florida. Mm-hmm. And so whenever there's a trend, like the pivot for the pandemic, we was ready to go. We was already had Zoom backgrounds, in a matter of weeks, we was ready to go Zoom and just keep the ball rolling, where some of the mom and pop shops might not have had, that kind of capabilities to pivot that fast and that quickly.
Right. Yeah. And that leads me into, this wouldn't be a lead generation strategies podcast without talking about lead generation strategies, right? So let's talk about that pivot in 2020. How did things change? You mentioned Zoom and things like that, but from a lead generation standpoint, getting more clients, getting more business owners to go with you guys, how was 2020 different? What kind of changes did you guys make?
Yes, we really, prior to pandemic, it was a little bit, I'd say, more old school. And I think that was one of the things that drew me to Transworld, that it was a little more old school, and I'm an old school guy. I've been around for a while. But the way that we pivoted also is we bring in some of the younger talent, millennials, even younger than millennials. I forget what generation that is. I get
right.
But anyway, the young people came in, and like I mentioned with the social media, we really went into social media hard. And they would already have everything pre-screened and ready for us. All we had to do was put Charlotte on there, right? Transworld Builders at Charlotte. So they did bring in a lot of tools there. We also did a lot more of the email marketing campaigns, drip campaigns. And then we also went out and for me personally, I went to a lot more networking through Zoom, because we did a lot of face-to-face. It's hard to meet with business owners and sell their business without getting face-to-face with them, but really got adjusted to the Zoom. And I think that was some of our main lead generations. Also, I'm sure we kicked it up some more on the SEO front too, right? We had to, as everybody did. You're not on the street anymore. But any kind of way that we could touch that client, we're on all the platforms. YouTube, we got a YouTube. We started our podcast. We actually, Transworld has their own podcast that comes out. And so we're really doing some things out on technology, using that technology to bring us to that point. Now, has it all been smooth? No, because we kind of was turning the Titanic, right? You know, we are the largest business brokerage firm in the world. So there's 300 offices worldwide in 16 different countries. So, but I think that brings our bandwidth together as far as with lead generation as well. I started dropping messages in LinkedIn. You know, we was going directly to the business owners any way we could through LinkedIn or Facebook, or they was on Instagram. We'd shoot them notes on Instagram, just DM them, and just doing everything possible to touch that business owner.
Very cool. So you say old school in the pre-pandemic was a lot of probably TV ads, radio, billboard, that kind of thing. And then you guys, like you said, start steering the Titanic over towards the social media. Any social media channels that you've noticed have done better than others? Instagram, LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think Facebook's probably the best for us because Facebook has a little bit older users, right? So most of our users, business owners, are at least 35 that's ready to sell a business, right? Or there are some entrepreneurs out there before 35, like myself. I started at 25, but the main thing is for us to kind of touch that generation at 35 to 55 are the ones that's, you know, above 55, they're looking at retiring and exiting. And we do a lot through telemarketing. We're still reaching those people on the telemarketing front, but Facebook has turned it around. And we've got several leads through Facebook Messenger and things like that, and Facebook sponsored ads, because our demographics are a little bit older. Right.
Very cool. And where do you guys see the business going? So we've talked pre-pandemic, we've talked pandemic. Do you see a little bit more of the same, just a little bit more invested into the social medias and things like that? Or is there a kind of a bigger thing that you're looking at with, hopefully we're coming out of this whole pandemic thing and we're getting back to life as usual. So what kind of changes do you see in the future for you guys when it comes to lead generation?
Yes, lead generation, definitely heavy on the media front, right? That media marketing, that's where we're going to be at. That's the new age. I'm a true believer in it. LinkedIn is one of the best tools for us because it's business owners all over it, as far as lead generation through their sales navigator. But I'm big on Facebook and Instagram and those because it shows that we're real people. A lot of times people hear business brokers, they think, that the M&A guy just wears a suit and tie and comes in and does the numbers, but we're human too. So we like to show that personal side. Our charity work that we do, through the churches or through the community, and social media is that platform. And I think that's the key is we've got to show as business owners that we are involved in the community and that we do things in the community, and not just, it's a homeless guy, I'm gonna give him a buck and take a picture with him. It's actually getting out there, rolling the sleeves up and doing the work. And that's where the social media platform brings it. And in that general demeanor that we show of how we truly are, that's what drives the people to us. So you got to put it out on the platforms, but you can't talk shop all the time, right? My mentor says, just take the alphabet, and every time you get to a vowel, then you plug your business. Everything else, then you ask for the sale on the vowel, right? So it's just post A, B, C, D, and then E, you ask for it, right? And then but you're getting to know you through the alphabet, and that's how we do it.
A lot of content marketing and things like that. Yeah, that's so powerful. And I when I first started, it was a lot of SEO. When I started my hittingperformancelab.com, the hitting, it's a very educational thing. You have to educate, just like in the business acquisition side too. You got to educate a lot, right? And very heavy in that. And then we kind of got into the Facebook marketing and getting leads through that, through email, and then doing, like you said, the heavy email marketing campaigning. And then we've kind of come back full circle. It's where we've created the digital, the kind of SEO-ish content marketing distribution platform. It's come full circle back to the content marketing, and you just can't beat that. Like you're saying, I love that alphabet, which your mentor was saying. And every time you hit a vowel, that's when you plug, that's when you call for the sale, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I love that.
So you got to ask for the sale too, right?
At some point you have to, and people understand that. I think it's just when you do it too much, instead, if you did it opposite, where every vowel was content and everything else was sale, people are like, okay, a little bit too much. You got to earn my trust first. No like and trust factor. So one last question before we can plug. I know you wanted to plug, an exit strategy service that you're offering. One more question. So if you had somebody was going to get in your industry, what piece of advice, maybe one or two things of somebody that wanted to get into mergers acquisitions?
Yeah, if you want to get mergers acquisitions, I think the main thing with this industry is you got to be mentally tough. You're going to hear 19 no's to get a yes. See, and then every deal falls apart. It's not they sign up, we get together, we close. It's going to be every deal. So it's going to be a real tough industry. And if you really like challenges, if you really like to figure out a way to help an individual exit out of their business to realize whatever their dream is, and then for an entrepreneur that has the heart that wants to realize their dream, I think that's the key. And I like to make people help them realize their dream. So I think that's kind of the key component. And then the second part is we can kind of help you with the financial parts and understanding the financials of the business. We can kind of help you with that piece. But the main thing is you got to be approachable. You want to be more of an extrovert, because we don't sit in the office all day. I'm in here today because of the podcast, but you got to get out and actually meet people and shake hands and get to know the community. So I just think those are the two things. And if you got a good personality and a hard work ethic, I think you can make it in the M&A. You just gotta, you gotta be a learner too. You gotta be able to absorb, be a sponge, right? Be a sponge. But I think those are the key components to being a good business broker or M&A advisor.
Great advice, Greg. Well, hey, so I want to be respectful of your time. I know you got to get out of there and beat the traffic. So where can people find you, and just give the plug you wanted to give about that new service that you're offering?
Okay, yes, sir. So what we experienced here at Transworld over the years, business owners, we go to them to sell their business, and they're not ready right now. We do a valuation and their business is $1 million and they need $5 million to retire. So what we've done is we've started a new program called the Exit Factor, and we actually come into the company and look at how we can help you prepare your business to sell so you get the maximum value out of it. And also that's a big benefit, not just for that seller, but for that buyer as well, because now he's taking over a better package and well-ran organization, right? So if it's making sure we get some 401k programs in there for employees, employee turnovers just so high. That's so key now. Is it insurance policies for that company? But from a buyer and a seller standpoint, it's great. So the Exit Factor, we just launched it, really just taken off a couple of months ago. I'm really looking forward to it, because now not only are you working with these companies, you're working with these CEOs or owners of these companies. You're starting to learn so much more about them, because we're actually in the room with them, helping them finish out this product that they started. And they've got a great product. We're just putting the finishing touches on it. So when that next buyer comes in, it'll be a great program. So the Exit Factor, if you know any business owners out there that are looking at exit in the next 5 years, 10 years, please give us a call, 704-533-0974, or you can shoot me an email at gbarnes@tworld.com.
Great idea. Because like you said, you're going to have a business that's going to come in and they might have it all together and they're limping to the finish line, and they come to you guys and you offer this, and then you're basically trying to help pick them back up, dust them off, get them recovered, and then get that business in a nice, healthy position so that you can sell, or so they can sell that out and hopefully, like you said, retire.
Yeah, I look at it like the real estate agent staging the house, right? So we're staging the business. It's kind of what we're doing.
Very cool. Well, Greg, hey, thanks for coming on with me. I appreciate your time and a lot of great advice for those out there that either didn't even know that there's a person like you doing what you do, or there's people that do know, and then that gave them a little bit more information so that they can possibly help reach out to you and pick your brain a little bit, or hopefully hire you to do your thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Joey, for having us on the show.
You got it. All right, hang around, Greg. Hold on.